Like the hat?
Dateline Rome, 257 BC. Romans, rich and poor alike, are crazy about garum. The sauce, which they put on everything, is a disgusting concoction containing wine, water, salt, and fermented fish entrails. That's right, folks, fish guts. This sauce tends to seek out and destroy the flavor of any food it comes in contact with, which might just be the whole idea. 1195 AD. Sophisticated medieval palates favor sweet sauces that showcase the spice rack. The more exotic cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, mace, cloves, mustard, honey, and of course exotic herbs, the better. And of course, for thickening, there's always plenty of stale bread to go around. Perfect for an après-joust dinner party. France, 1813. When it comes to hitting the sauce, nobody touches the great Antonin Carême, who's developed a system of sauces based on a handful of mother sauces. White and brown sauces made from stock, bechamel from milk, tomato, and hollandaise. Upon this foundation, Carême believes that hundreds of small sauces can be constructed. As for the father of sauces, well, Carême considers himself to be the father of all sauces.
Today, the average American gets his or her sauce from a bag or a box, which is a real shame because you don't have to be a world-class chef to whip up world-class sauces. Armed with a couple of decent tools, a handful of basic ingredients, and a quarter cup of know-how, and you too will be able to convert the liquid of your choice into seriously
A sauce is a flavorful and somewhat viscous liquid designed to be ladled, spooned, brushed, or squirted onto an accompanying food. Although recipes for over 1,000 different sauces are on record, most stem from only a few dozen different Now, the way I see it, there are two sauce families, okay? There are standalone sauces like hollandaise sauce or raspberry coulis, which are produced in complete isolation from the foods that they're going to go on. And then there are ready-made sauces like gravy or jus, which are born out of the foods that they're going to be served on, beside, or under. Now, since the average American meal will probably profit the most from a ready-made sauce, that's where we're going to start. Hi, Thing. Nice looking steaks you got going there. You're cooking those in a little butter, I can see. Very continental. How you plan on finishing those? Ah, yes. B2 steak sauce. Nothing else like it. Nothing edible, at least. Look, I tell you what, Thing. We'll put this away, and I tell you what, you just give me 10 minutes, and I'll make you a steak sauce so good that it'll make your head spin. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean it. Here. And I'll even take care of the steaks, okay? Okay. Lip-smacking though they may be, molecule for molecule, these steaks are not the tastiest things in this scene. These are. Those little brown bits in there are what the French called fond or foundation, and from them a mighty pan sauce can be built. Step one, we must dissolve these bits or deglaze them with a water-type liquid. Now, water definitely qualifies as a water-type liquid, but it doesn't bring a lot of flavor to the party, which is one reason I always keep beef and chicken broth on hand. Yes, the packaged stuff. By the way, this is broth, not stock. Okay, stock is made from bones. This is made from meat. 3/4 of a cup should do the trick. As the liquid boils, scrape with a whisk or wooden spoon to break those brown bits off of the bottom of the pan so that they can dissolve. Now we're going to let this reduce, still over high heat, for a couple of minutes. Why? Well, as water leaves the party, the concentration of flavor elements and lip-smacking gelatin are concentrated. So we're going to hold off until the end to season. Remember that. If you salt now, it's going to be too salty later. by dissolving the fawn and reducing this broth, we've got the start of a good sauce here, but we've got miles to go before we eat. The next addition, flavorful aromatic liquid. Now, there are possibilities aplenty, but I really like alcohol for this simple reason. You can add a very little amount and get a whole lot of flavor, which is good for reduction sauce. Now, when it comes to beef, I don't think there's anything better than cognac, and I'm going to add 3 tablespoons before I let it reduce further. Now, here's an important thing to note. When you're cooking with alcohol, remember, you can cook out some of the alcohol, but you can never cook out all of the alcohol. Now, I don't think things are going to be out driving tonight, but it's just a good thing to keep in mind. I also want to add another layer of flavor in the form of green peppercorns. They look a lot like capers, but they're not. They are packed in brine, though. And to carry the flavor and also add more volume and body, we're going to go with 3/4 of a cup of cream. Now, that's starting to sound like sauce. The cognac. The green peppercorns. And the cream. There. Now there's nothing to do but allow this to cook down to the correct consistency. See, as water leaves the pan, the fat and remaining solids come closer and closer together, thus thickening, until the sauce reaches this stage. That's called nappe. Perfect. Bit too strong to eat by itself, but that's exactly what you want. Otherwise, it would be soup, which is not to say that you can turn sauces into soups, but that's another show. Time to plate. Leave it to a rich, creamy pan sauce to turn an everyday hunk of cow into date food. You kids enjoy, you hear? So, what are some other ways that sauce science can come to your rescue? Let's go find out. What's this? Looks like someone's trying to make a stew. A lamb stew, which of course is composed of small bits of browned lamb and vegetation suspended in a brown sauce. This looks a little on the watery side if you ask me. Sounds like a job for starch. Plants manufacture sugar in their leaves via photosynthesis. They store this sugar in the form of tight little granules called starch. When exposed to heat and liquid, these little granules gelatinize or open up. When they open up, they tangle, thus thickening any liquid they happen to be in. The trick in doing this is knowing that different kinds of starch thicken in different ways. Can I go now? Here in America, wheat flour is the most common thickener, but it's got several disadvantages. It clumps worse than any other starch, combined with fat to make a really greasy sauce, and it's got to be brought to a full boil before it'll thoroughly thicken. And it's got protein in it, which just rise to the surface, and you've got to remove the scum, and it's nasty, nasty business. Now, Asian cuisines often employ cornstarch, a far purer starch than wheat flour. It thickens at lower temperatures than flour, but it isn't very heat stable. If you overcook it even a little bit, you'll end up right back where you started from. Now, tapioca or cassava starch is good for pie fillings, but very tricky to handle in sauces. Potato starch works a lot like cornstarch, and it's unique among granular starches in that it is kosher for Passover. But my very, very favorite all-time thickener has got to be arrowroot, which comes from, of course, arrowroots.
Not necessarily.
Did you hear somebody call for a nutritional anthropologist? Because I know I didn't call for a nutritional anthropologist.
Well, we NAs have to shop, too. But Alton, you're really in over your head with this arrowroot thing.
I am?
Yes, you are. Well, what they sell as arrowroot powder isn't always necessarily from the true arrowroot, Latin name Maranta arundinacea.
Oh, easy for you to say.
It's often actually tapioca or cassava or even potato starch that's sold as arrowroot starch. So you have to be sure you have a reliable source.
You know, I hate to admit this, but I probably wouldn't know an arrowroot if you hit me over the head with one.
Oh, well, they have them here.
Oh, it's a tuba. Or is it a taproot? Or a swollen stem? I'm not sure.
I bet you don't even know why it's called arrowroot.
I don't know why this is called arrowroot? Of course I do, because when you hold it like this, it looks No, I don't.
It was first found by the Indians who lived in the Caribbean, and they found they could make a paste out of it that they could put on a wound that had been made by a poison arrow, and it would pull the poison out. Hence, arrowroot.
Just another reason to keep this stuff at home at all times. So how do you like yours?
Oh, I don't use it.
Oh.
I use Japanese arrowroot. It's made from the kudzu plant.
Kudzu. Excellent. Well, that'll probably have to wait for another show. Thanks a lot, Deb. Kudzu. Now that we have our starch of choice in hand, we've got to ask ourselves two questions. Number one, how much of this stuff do we actually need? Now, I figure we've got about a quart of liquid here, and if I wanted to tighten that up to a real gravy consistency, I'd probably go with a tablespoon of arrowroot for every cup of liquid. But I really only want to tighten this up a bit, so I'm going to go with 2 tablespoons of arrowroot. Here we go. Tablespoon 1. Oh, but of course, this brings us to our second question. How do we introduce this into here? And we can't just dump this in, right? Why? Because if we did, some of the starch would gelatinize immediately, forming a watertight seal around other non-gelatinized